Good afternoon. Welcome to the 50th Spin It Social Hour, live from Photoville. Good afternoon, everyone. I did not say good evening because I usually do these shows at night, but welcome to the 50th Spin It Social Hour, live from Photoville. We are here at Pier 2 in Brooklyn. Imagine that, a live stream, live. First time since the pandemic hit. I'm thrilled to be outside doing this, going mobile all the way today. And my name is Stephen Kaplan, AKA Spin It Social, as everybody knows. I've been doing this show now for, 50 straight shows since the pandemic started to help get the stories, the work, and everything out there about our photographers around the globe. I've had so many amazing guests, it would take me forever to go down the list. But everybody from Jeffrey Salter to Esther Suarez, Arlene Schulman has been on, Claudia Paul, Stefan, you name it. They've been on the show, Paula Bronstein. Anyway, today we are here to talk about the work of great David Gonzalez, a huge fan and friend of David's for quite a long time. And I have to tell you, his work speaks for itself. He is one of the finest reporters at the New York Times, and in fact, anywhere, in my opinion. And start this off after I just tell you a couple of more things. So I started the show doing it every week, but now it's once a month. So please keep open for the next one in due time. But we are here today to go through the exhibit, which is behind me. And we're going to show a slideshow of David's work. It was, the narration was prepared by Jonathan Borstein. I wanted to give a big shout out to Jonathan for doing a great job with that. It's really great and helping me with it. And I want to give a big shout out before time gets going, and then I forget, to Neil Parekh for working behind the scenes. Find him at Neil Parekh on Twitter, and to Rose Horowitz 31, who has a show called Women to Follow, and I produced that show for her. It is amazing working with all my friends. I have Ronaldo Robinson over here, who's giving me a hand, making sure everything's going great. Aaron Lee Feynman's in the house. So we're going to get this started, and I am going to find the proper slides here because doing this mobily for the first time, this is a production. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at David's amazing work. Oh. I'm not a photojournalist, says David Gonzalez, the award-winning journalist who has worked for the New York Times since 1990. I make pictures. Some of the pictures take words, some don't. David's pictures have been standing out with and without words since he discovered photography at Yale. It was his first job after graduation and before he moved on to writing in general and journalism in particular. He wound up at Columbia's Graduate School of Journalism, which in turn led first to a stint at Newsweek and then to the Times. But even at the Times, David's pictures became part of the story. As Caribbean and Central American bureau chief, a region of some 36 North American countries, he often filed stories with his own photographs. In his Times piece, Faces in the Rubble, which was as much a photo essay as a journalistic investigation, that David the photographer retook center stage. The rest gets complicated, he says, but the publication of that story in 2009 revived my photographic aspirations. It had at least 3 notable results. One was the founding of 𝐶EIS. One was the founding of 𝐶EIS del Sur with 5 other photographers from the South Bronx, Joe Conzo Jr., Ricky Flores, Angel Franco, Francisco Molina Reyes II, and Edwin Pagan. Another was the creation of the Side Street column in the Times, which is devoted to the odd and obscure people of places in New York, or as David puts it, where I get to shoot and write. The third is the Lens blog, which has become the go-to site for not only photojournalists, but also anyone interested in photography. There will always be a need for good and great photojournalism. There are simply stories that cannot be told visually in a way that print cannot capture, in a way that captures the mind and heart of the viewer. David notes. Welcome once again to the Spin It Social Hour. It is giving me great pleasure before this music starts blaring behind me to welcome the great David Gonzalez. David, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me over.
Oh, man, I tell you, the music's going to start slamming in a minute.
I like the music. It's good.
It's good. It's good.
People dancing or playing music. So it's cool.
It's good. It's good. So behind us, folks, is the actual exhibit. But we're going to talk to David for a brief minute here. Then I'm going to give you a quick look at the exhibit as I flip the camera around. So stay with me because we're doing this all live and mobile with StreamYard. But then we're going to walk over very gently, hopefully not lose any reception, and sit somewhere quiet. And we're going to discuss a great set of slides as people look at us as we're doing this because they haven't seen things like this in a while. Thank you, Jonathan. Here. Jonathan's here, who's usually my co-producer, but Jonathan has the day off. We have Jerry here. Jerry, good afternoon from today. Thank you, Jerry, for being here. We've got Edward Leskin from Pennsylvania. I was just at Bethlehem Steel with him. Great place. We've got Stefan Malky's here. I thought you had a project, Stefan. What's up? And who else we got here? Anybody else tuning in?
All my people would sleep.
Well, where's David's people? Yo, where's the boogie down, man? Tim Stone is here from Pennsylvania, as well, the land of the bears and the turkeys, as we say. Apollo is here from Philly. Yo, David, what's up, man? Where's all the people? Where's the Bronx? The Bronx is sleeping? Edward's here. Okay, we're going to get started here. I'm going to turn the camera around gently. So I'm going to go to set, and I'm going to go to cap, and I'm going to scroll up a little here, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to now give you a quick look right here of David's Photoville exhibit. So if you stop here at Pier 2 and you take a look, you'll be getting an education in Bronx life. Some of his finest photos, and this is the classic that's around the world called Dancers. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here are some of the others that are just all classics that David has worked on over the years. Incredible work documenting Bronx life from a born and bred New York Rican, as he calls himself. But it is an amazing exhibit. Love these. Love these. And we have Port Morris right here. This photo from Port Morris. We have El Bronx, the rooftops of the Bronx, stories in and of themselves. We have Charlotte Street, and we have Morris Heights and Longwood representing. Okay, so I'm going to step back here. See, this is the exhibit, folks. You have a beautiful view of New York City from here. And if you come and enjoy this exhibit with David right here, his spirit will take you through it. He may not be here every day, but his spirit will take you through it, and his words will do the rest, which are right at the beginning of the exhibit here. So I am going to go back right here, and I'm going to flip the camera around again. And we are going to go into the settings here, and we are going to go back to the front camera. There we
You are watching the Spin It Social Hour, where photographers share their work and journeys. Stephen Kaplan is interviewing David Gonzalez, and we're back.
And I'm going to
Stephen Kaplan.
This off again. Okay, here we are, folks. Hey, it's live. It's been a while. We're all a little rusty. I know you guys are going to cut me some slack. So let's walk over with David. I'm going to pick up my bag and things, and I'm going to try to get everything together here. So just give me a second because we've got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm going to put this in here. Okay. Oh man, my man Ray right behind us here is a savior. Thank you, Ronaldo. So we're going to slowly walk over. So David, while we're walking here, I'm going to put the camera on you. tell us about the beginning of Bronx Life. Tell us about your journey. We got about 3 hours.
Yeah, no, we don't have. I mean, listen, folks know me. My folks came to New York and they were teenagers in Puerto Rico. They met at a church dance. Which was like the Catholic Irish Puerto Ricans back in the day. And then, like all Puerto Ricans in that generation, they moved to the promised land of the Bronx. Where I was born in 1957. Yeah,
No, you're not. You're young at heart, man.
I mean, I grew up in that period. There was disinvestment, abandonment, varsity profit. My family moved every 4 years.
Every 4 years. Wow.
The route was north and west.
Right.
And, 1970, when you opened up Co-op City, it was like all the west here from the neighborhood. I swear to God. I mean, I grew up in neighborhoods that were mixed.
Right.
I went to a high school that was mixed.
Right. Cardinal Hayes, right?
Yeah. The only school was going to. It was a really complicated place, and we grew up the way we do, sort of historical context. But I went to Hayes, thinking I was going to be a doctor, and I wound up discovering a camera.
Right.
And I kind of got into it, but I didn't major in it. I just took a couple of courses at the school, but also, more importantly, I met the acquaintance of Juan Fuentes, who was the publisher of El Observador, which was a community newspaper, specifically the Puerto Rican. Back then, we didn't talk about Latinx or anything like that.
Right, Latinx, right? It was what equals.
What happened was he took me under his wing. Gave me not just an education and technique, because I was self-taught primarily, and so my technique was pretty, well, you can imagine.
We're walking over some rocks here, folks, so we're going to be very careful so neither of us trip.
So I spent a couple of weeks in Hartford working with him, and then I became his stringer in New Haven for El Observador, where I wrote and I took pictures. And I decided,
We're going to give us a second to get adjusted. We are doing this live from Photoville, by at least 2 of the exhibits on Pier 2. We've got a wedding here, right here. We're going to move to, we have a wedding going on in 3 minutes, and we are not going to interrupt your happiness. No way. Welcome to New York, folks, and welcome to live broadcasting. So we're going to interrupt for 1 second so we don't trip on these rocks. We're going along the waterfront here, as you could see, and we're going to sit somewhere more carefully, okay, where we won't be in the way of the wedding. So how about right here? What do you think?
yeah.
You're okay. We're going to go over to we found some benches. So just bear with us, folks. Spinach Social Hour live from Photoville with David Gonzalez, to be continued in 10 seconds here. This is the joy. I miss doing this, actually. Last time I did this was with 𝐶𝐮 and Neil Parekh at the Museum of the City of New York. Right, Neil? All right. So, yep. Happy to help produce today's show. I am really thrilled. Thank you, Neil. Okay. I'm going to sit. Yeah, I'm going to sit over here. And we're going to do some distancing here, but we're both vaccinated. And we're going to be very, very careful. So anyway, so go ahead, Dave. Tell them, continue the story after.
When I got out of school, I decided I wanted to try my hand at photography. And I wound up working at Infoco. Now, the way I found out about it was interesting, because back in those days, there was a really vibrant association in New York City called the Association of Hispanic Arts. And one of the people who was crucial to my career, in addition to Juan Fuentes, was 𝐿va Cabrera. 𝐿va, who is known in the Puerto Rican arts community as La Madrina de las Artes, the godmother of the arts. She was at the Association of Hispanic Arts, and I used to get their newsletter when I was a student at college. And I remember it was like March of my senior year, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I had made a couple of calls to studios, and I was like, no, I can't put up with this. I mean, my teacher at Yale was like, if they're talking to you like this during the interview, imagine how they're going to talk to you when they're paying you.
Right.
It was good. Listen. And then Infoco had an ad. They were looking for a programs director. And that was amazing because I'd never heard of them, first of all. But secondly, it was like 4 blocks from where I lived. They were on the concourse across from Poe Cottage, Kingsbridge. And I was on University off Kingsbridge with my parents. So it was ideal. And I had 24-hour access to a dark room with professional gear. You know, it was the CETA program, the government program that, you know, paid for different things. And so we had several CETA slots at Infocal. I had one. I got paid a grand total of $110 a week. You know, half of that went towards Chinese food and beer. The other half went towards film and anything else I needed.
Is there anything better for a photographer than Chinese food and then beer?
That's what you
Not really, right?
Well, you know, but I was doing it, and then my father fell ill rather suddenly and passed away. And so it was time to change things up. I couldn't stay living at home. My mother was going to be fine, and she was. But I went into social services, PR, until I hated it for 2 years, and then jumped over to J school.
I tell you, that is tough, the social services and PR. I mean, social services, I started with some of that stuff. I also worked with, like, mentally handicapped, you know, people and stuff earlier on. It's hard. It's hard
this was a little different. This wasn't that kind of work.
No.
But it was, you know, it was boring as hell. It was just a lot of people in suits acting in court.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do it.
That is the truth.
But I went to, you know, I went to J school, Columbia, and I didn't do photography. You know, I mean, John Shearer was teaching there, so that would have been, I knew John. But I kind of put my cameras down when my father died and I moved out. And then I really didn't take a long time. I basically just wrote. A couple of times I took my cameras overseas, like to Haiti in the mid-80s. I just wasn't, I was focusing more on the words. It's a different part of the head, and it's a different thing. And,
what was your first camera? I'm just curious. Do you remember what your first camera was?
The first one I bought?
First one you bought?
Petrie FTE, government chooses cameras. It's not good. But you know, it was what it was. After my junior summer, working as a tutor at University of Connecticut in stores, I got enough to buy a Pentax MX. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough to buy anything beyond the 50 that it came with. So it's a bit disciplined to learn how to shoot with a 50, you know.
Right.
But then eventually I wanted to get a wide angle and flash.
Right. Well, you know,
I sold my record collection. Basically.
Oh, you sold your vinyl?
I got it back.
You got it back. Thank God, man. You sold your vinyl. I lost my vinyl, man. When I moved out of a roommate's house, they got rid of it.
I sold it.
I couldn't believe it.
I sold it for 83 and a Pentax 28.
I tell you, my first camera was a Nikon EM, and it was actually put in my hands by this guy right back there, Ronaldo, who's shooting us now. And I have to tell you, the biggest change for me at a certain point was when I was out one day near the squatters riots in the LES, the Lower East Side, as we say, right? But the bottom line is Pran, God bless him, Death Pran, and Angel were both there. And sorry, I'm trying to get this straight here. Angel and Pran were there, and I was doing my first real photojournalistic work. And Pran and Angel looked at me and said, "Hey, kid, get a wide angle lens, will you? Enough with the telephoto."
Franco, you know, for Franco, a 24 is a telephoto.
So, right. So I went out, I bought it. Right. I went out and I bought an 18, and I never turned back.
I bought a 28.
Yeah.
And that became my go-to lens. Put it on hyperfocus outside.
Yep.
Good to go. You don't need manual. You don't need automatic focus.
No. And the hell with the telephotos.
Yeah, I had a telephoto. I've never used it.
Yeah.
It was a 28 for me, basically. And then, you know, what happened was I didn't shoot for a long time. Every now and then, you know, I would have had an SX70, the old folding ones. I'd play around with that. I didn't take pictures of my camera. At one point, it was funny. Ed Keating just passed away.
Yeah, he just passed
away.
away.
Had lent me Eddie was using a Contax point and shoot, sharp as a knife. It was a gorgeous little. I mean, it really was a nice little camera. And he let me have it because he was worried that if he used it on the assignment, he's going to hand in film with the numbers upside down. It was because the film was loaded upside down in his camera, so he was worried about that. But you know, rest his soul. I remember he helped me with that. You know, let me use it for a couple of months. But it really wasn't until like '98 that I got a little clamshell point and shoot digital with like the resolution of like maybe it was bad resolution.
Well, back me up on this one, David. I mean, everybody, all the greats always said it's not the camera that's in your hands; it's what you do with it, right?
That's true, but for point
within reason.
Yeah, after having used really crappy cameras as a kid. I appreciate a decent camera.
Of course.
And I have them now. I don't need anything fancy, but I do need stuff that, works for me.
Right.
What works for me works for me. But, it really wasn't until I did that piece in 2009, and that came out of just scanning my old negatives.
Faces of the Rubble.
Yeah, Faces in the Rubble.
Faces in the Rubble. Excuse me.
It was, I just got a scanner. I decided to scan my negs.
Right.
And I found a whole bunch of stuff that I hadn't remembered, which, is to be expected because you get older and you do this more. And you just get older and see the world more, and your point of view changes. It becomes more informed. And you also know what you want to do.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. I'm curious. What, if you remember, I remember the first photo I took that really got my juices flowing, that really made me start to think about photography and the power of it. What was the first photo, if you remember, if you think for a moment, what was the first photo that did that for you? And I'll tell you about mine after you tell me about yours.
I mean,
roughly.
I just remember the earliest photos I took with my new camera, because I'd used an AE1 that a friend of mine lent me before.
Okay.
But the first stuff I took of my own, it was just like landscapes. It was like, squirrels and trees and shit like that. I mean, it wasn't like anything fancy. And, it took a while to get to the point of having images that I felt, and I know, and more importantly, the people that I was talking to as friends and colleagues, felt worked.
Right.
I think it was a time of just taking a lot of pictures.
Right.
And, it's interesting when you're shooting film because it's limited. You can't, I mean, I was bulk loading as it was.
Right.
Still,
right.
You can't shoot past 36
nope.
or 37.
How many rolls of film did you have in your bag usually?
Usually when I was like
5 or 6. Yeah, me too.
I mean, and I wrote my own stuff, but it wasn't really until
Tri-X 400.
But I shot it at 2.
What do you like better, Tri-X or Ilford? Do you ever shoot with Ilford?
I did. I liked Ilford, but I was just used to
Tri-X. I know it was the standard. Right.
But I mean, it wasn't until I think much later that I started realizing the images I was making. I look back now on some of those images I took earlier, and the fact is that some of the images I liked from back then, I have no idea why. Whereas some images that I totally ignored back then,
right? Isn't that amazing? You can go back. That is the beauty of keeping all your negatives. As Edwin Pagan says, right? I've got all of you say from Say Still Store, we've got negatives older than you.
And that was a picture that was me.
Hey, look who's finally here.
Who's that?
Edwin.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man.
What's up, Edwin?
It let me look at my work very differently because now I'm, at that time I was doing this for a while now, 30 years.
Right.
And so I found things like my dancer's picture, which really, I have pictures from that day. That was a very good day for me photographing.
That was a good day, huh?
I had other pictures from that day that I like. There's still a couple that I still show. But that dancer's picture just came to me out of nowhere because I shot it and then I forgot about it for 30 years.
The beauty of that photo in curating the work that I did for the opening that I narrated, I have to tell you, I saw that photo and I looked at it for a while. I've seen it so much and I love it. I could look at it all day. But then I found a photo you took recently that I showed at the end in combination with it. I showed a photo of 2 people dancing somewhere in...
I can tell you right now, that's a Grant's Tomb. It was a Jazzmobile.
Okay.
And it was my friend Bobby Sanabria's multiverse big band.
Okay.
Bobby and I are childhood friends. Yes. We went to Hayes together. A lot of us went to Hayes together. Right. Ricky calls us the Bronx Illuminati.
But, Bronx Illuminati. Ricky says that?
Yeah.
But anyway, my point, I'm looking at those photos and it was like a time warp. It was like looking at the classic photo. Joe Conzo's here. Joe's up. Joe woke up before 1.
Okay.
We love you, Joe. But I look at that photo and then I look at the other one from the Grant's Tomb. And it was like a time warp, brother.
What's interesting is this. Bobby, I went there, to hear Bobby's music because it's just absolutely astounding.
Right.
I mean, the sound of a 20-piece orchestra.
Right.
Led by someone like Bobby.
Bobby Sanabriya.
Composed of people like Chris Washburn and all these other amazing musicians. it's a beautiful thing. I went there to see that and to just hang out with my boy 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐧 Muhammad, because 𝐒𝐲𝐬 always goes to these. And I usually went into 𝐒𝐲𝐬 at any of Bobby's concerts, and so I go there. But of course, I have a camera. And then my friend Russell Ben Ali is there. Russell, longtime reporter at Newsday. I hadn't seen Russell in ages, and there he was with his wife, and they were off to the side dancing. So I worked it. And the irony is that I can't dance for crap. I can't.
I can't either. I try.
I cannot dance for crap. But yet, my most famous images of two people dancing. And throughout the course of my career, I continue to photograph people, like, not on stage, because that's a whole different type of photography.
Right. Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it?
That's like hats off to, like,
those stage,
or
I know. Sarah Crowitz.
But I photograph people dancing just out in the world.
Right.
And it's funny because the Bobby's Jazz Mobile concerts, man, I've gotten like 3 really solid dance pictures out of
Well, I tell you, there's one photo. Everybody should go back and watch the beginning again. I'm doing this live, so there's only the type of multimedia production.
That was the other. No,
what?
That was the one you put up. Was the guy with the Puerto Rican T-shirt? That was Orchard Beach. Okay.
Oh no, that was that one. But I have the other one right after your dancer's photo at Grant's Tomb in that slideshow that I showed at the beginning. So if everybody goes back after we're finished here today, and you should, is to watch the rerun, is to catch the photos in the first slideshow that I showed, that I automated, that will show the dancer's photo, the classic one, and then a couple of others, and you'll see what David's talking about. But one of the things, David, that I wanted to talk to you about as we progress here, and Neil's going to put up the first photo from the actual slideshow here.
Yeah.
Tell us about, as the helicopters go over us, hopefully everybody can hear us clearly. David, tell us about Bronx Life and this collection that's on exhibit here.
I mean, what happened was about, I don't know.
How did you hook up with Photoville for this, and how did you get all this?
What happened was, I got approached by David Carroll and Ashley Stoll from Peanut Press, asking me if I wanted to do one of their limited edition portfolios.
Okay.
18 images, beautifully reproduced, beautifully designed, 100 copies, period. And it comes with a picture. And yes, it comes with my dancer's picture, not signed, because my dancer's picture.
Now, you want it signed, you got to pay bigger bucks.
But it gets, it's that. And so I started looking at what I wanted to put out there. And I decided I needed to put something out about, obviously, the Bronx, because it's been, my touchstone over the years. But also, I wanted to put up something that represents also just the way I look at the place. It's very specific to me. And the important thing was that I wanted to show, to some extent, sometimes the ordinariness of the place.
Right.
Because I'm just tired of the other stuff. I mean, either people only associate us with, hip hop or graffiti, which is fine. Those are great things.
Fine.
And then there's great photographers documenting that. But also when it comes to quote unquote serious photography, that's when, the Bronx has become a place where people have come to do quote unquote serious photography. And all too often it's, showing dysfunction, or, they claim they want to shed a light on something. It's like, light's been shed, homeboy. You just got to look.
Right.
That kind of thing. But hold on. That kind of thing, I mean, has always bothered me, because my mentors, people like Frank Espada, Frank was photographing East Harlem at the same time that Bruce Davidson was. Bruce became famous with his work. Frank eventually was able to get to his work when he was in his 50s.
Right.
Then he moved to San Francisco and taught photography. But I mean, those pictures that showed our dysfunction didn't really do it for me, because I'm not saying those pictures aren't there.
Right.
Because that's the problem. People, you just want to show this. I'm showing myself. Okay, I'm showing how I see the place. Do you want that other stuff? Go find it. But that's not what floats my boat.
Exactly.
This one is the Bronx Puerto Rican Day Parade. Puerto Ricans, since our flag was banned in the island for a good part of the 20th century, or the first part of the 20th century, Puerto Ricans fly their flag everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's the Bronx Puerto Rican Day Parade on the Grand Concourse. And, I just went there to hang out with some friends and photograph it. And, I just love the way people are out there. But this way, with this car, I actually shot that in color. I processed it, differently. It's, but it was like all these flags everywhere.
I think the black and well, you gave me the black and white. I was gonna. I think I have the color in your opening slideshow.
Yeah, the show. I mean, the show's in black and white. Yeah. I just wanted consistency.
Yeah, of course.
And, to be honest, I like shooting black and white. Yeah, I still do. And there's some plugins out there that let you process.
Well, that's also the magic, though, of shooting with quality, digital or film, is the ability with the Photoshop and everything else to turn everything into a really beautiful reverse. From color to black and white.
I mean, yeah, you're doing. I mean, it's this guy. It was funny. I was doing this thing with Mike Robles, a comic. Mike's in San Antonio now, but he used to do a really good show in the Bronx, and comedy rumba. And he had done this thing where he was setting up a fake wrestling match in the bodega, just to kind of like a stunt. And he had a bunch of comics and a couple of real professional wrestlers there. But while we were waiting for that to happen, I'm outside, and this brother comes by, with a Fender, with a Stratocaster, it's a Squire actually, right. And a clip-on belt amp, and he was playing.
Oh, he had a clip-on belt amp.
Yeah, if you look on.
No, I didn't look close enough on that one, but I was wondering where the amp was.
Hanging out, and he hung out outside, played some stuff, and I just photographed him. And it's like, that's the thing. I mean, the Bronx has changed so much just in the last 30, 40 years. It's in my lifetime, that, African immigrants are, they've been part of the Bronx for a while now. And so it's nice to see, this guy out there just doing his thing.
I want to step back for a second and just leave this photo up, Neil, if you could, just for a minute. Or actually just put us full frame if you can, Neil, so this way we can talk from it. There we go. I wanted to just, comment about earlier what you said about photographers who documented all the typical stuff that they showed the world a lot of, the fires, the rubble, the this, the that. Thankfully for you and 𝐒𝐭𝐭𝐲 and the rest of the crew that really, told us everything else that was going on, the beauty of life in the Bronx, because enough with everything, with just showing the fires and the rubble and everything, there was beautiful life going on around everybody too.
Well, the thing is this also, if you want to talk about the fires and the rubble, I'm down.
Right.
I mean, I've written about it for decades.
Exactly.
I know the people who rebuilt neighborhoods. Literally rebuilt.
Literally.
𝐼𝐕𝐄 on Kelly Street. I mean, if you want to talk about why that happened, I'm down. Unfortunately, most narratives about that just focus on all these broke down Black and Puerto Rican people, and whites, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to some of my Irish friends.
Really?
Claremont. I mean, it's like you want to focus on the problem, but you don't focus on the people who are really there experiencing and trying to realize their life in this context. I mean, right now, everybody's talking about systemic racism. I see editors saying, I'm really interested in ideas about, structural racism and systemic racism. And I'm like, you are? I've been living it my entire life. You kind of like when people like myself have raised these issues, you dismiss it as being, a narrow interest or not of interest. Which is kind of funny in a city like New York, which is, Puerto Rican community in New York City is a foundational community, as my friend, the late Maurice Berger, used to say. It's, all these other folks that are here now, the Colombians, the Mexicans, the Dominicans, we came first. We set up the city in a way that was welcoming to other immigrants. And we're migrants. Actually, we're colonial subjects. You want to get real about
That's right. Let's get real.
But I mean, it's like, if you want to talk about the problems, fine, but don't use this as a prop just to start a discussion that doesn't include us.
Exactly.
Because frankly, I speak several languages. I'm familiar with several cultures, and I can write and I can shoot. And so, really, I really don't think that those kinds of approaches that just don't present us in our totality. I mean, if you look at the members of Los Seis, I mean, we got the serious stuff in there too. It's just like we need to be presented as people in full, which we never get. And I'm really tired of just seeing, people going in and out. And you know what I'm talking about. Right. I'm not even going to get to that. That's just a bad vibe on a beautiful day.
In and out. Yep.
But they go in and they think they've discovered something.
Well, they're tourists.
That's more than tourists.
No, it's more than tourists. But they're going in They're taking pictures
They're
of.
exploiting people.
Yeah, it's exploitation. Yeah, it is.
I mean,
It is.
I've seen books that they use the word Bronx just to tease you in, and it's like,
right.
Listen, man, you want to get close. I mean, it's a really complicated subject. All I know is I have spent my journalistic career fairly true to my own values, which is to present the full story, especially the stuff that gets ignored or dismissed.
Right.
It's just the kind of thing I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to do my thing. Again, though, the kind of work that I do as a photographer, it's becoming more and more personal.
Right.
Not in the sense I want to do memoir, because that's tired. But it's a very personal view and a very personal take on what's going on out there. That I'm interested in. See, I mean, because you have things like, they want to see they want memoirs from up from the ghetto.
Right.
My first agent wanted one of those. It wasn't going to happen. It's like, they make us look like what? Dogs that can stand on our hind legs? Give me a break.
Right.
It's wearying, but at the same time, it's like, it makes it very clear for me what I want to do.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, I grew up in Greenwich Village, and I used to go up to the Bronx all the time and certain parts of Brooklyn and stuff. And, I learned so much firsthand from being with all my friends from all these neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you that what you're saying is exactly right about, the exploitation and everything else that way. And like I said, I'll go back to this time and time again. Having a collective like 𝐶𝐬𝐧, I think what you guys put together and being able to get it out there is so vital for the history and for the future. Because we all know what's being taught in the schools all the time still. We all still know what's being shown all the time, but you guys have the real collection and other great photographers too that you mentioned. Yeah. So let's go back to some of the photo. Actually, Edward has a comment here. Wonderful point. Edward says, yes, we drive through and walk into areas of decay and rubble, but the true story is to connect and understand the people, the humanity, grapple with and try and understand what life is like in their shoes. And the photographer. David uses the camera for us to connect with real people, something I understand very well in my own work in my community. Edward documented the steel workers of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So anyway, let's get back to the photos now on the screen. So, yeah, you knew this one was going to come up, the roof.
It's the roof, man.
It's the roof.
I mean, every Puerto Rican family that I know has pictures from the roof back in the 1930s and 40s. My family does. So what happened was this. My brother-in-law, Alex, who died last year, he and my sister lived literally around the corner from us on 192nd and University. I was on 192nd and Aqueduct. So what happens? We got into this habit of basically after dinner, we go upstairs and hang out on the roof, shall we say.
Right.
And watch the sunset.
Right.
And that became like a routine. So it's just, and that's Alex's shadow up there.
Oh, you almost hit end on the camera.
I saw it.
David's putting his finger on the phone and almost hit end, folks.
I mean, basically, that's Alex back there. You can see the Kingsbridge Armory in the background in the upper left. That was a place we loved to just chill at every day while I lived up there. Once I moved, obviously. But again, it's also, though, of a certain, I mean, I grew up with this kind of stuff. That's just where you hung out. I got tons of
this shadow, this photo, though, man, is the one. I mean, it is really a beautiful, powerful image, and that tells a story. And did you know who was sitting there when you took it, or was it just somebody?
My brother-in-law.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Your brother-in-law. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It's been a long morning running here and everything.
That was our routine.
I had a COVID fog moment, as I call it. But the thing is that, the rooftops, as you say, had something really special for people because you were able to sit up there and get away from some of the stuff on the streets for a moment in time at times, right?
You also had light. Leon Chasso, who directed Crossover Dreams. Leon, and he also directed Sugar Hill. If you notice in his movies, he has a lot of roof shots.
He does.
And he says it's a great place. The light is good and you can shoot more or less unobstructed.
Right.
you know, rather than going down to the street and tying up traffic and whatnot.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, there is that too. But I mean,
I mean, also for the people who are actually sitting up there in general.
I'm just saying, I like going there for that too.
Let me tell you, the lighting, well, you always are one that always talk about the greatness of chasing the light, you know? It's all about the light, right? Within reason. Within reason.
Light's part of it.
Part of it. A big part of it. Anyway, let's move on to the next shot here. And tell us about
again.
You're giggling again.
If you're a Bronx Catholic, you know the deal. You know, with the sum total of our experiences, I was raised Catholic in the Bronx, went to Catholic schools for 12 years.
Right.
You know, that's La Gruta, the grotto up in Allerton, but right next to St. Lucy's Parish. Basically, what they had at the grotto, which was originally established as an Italian parish, they built a grotto of Lourdes with like water coming down. They have that, but then they built the Scala Sancta, the Holy Steps, which is basically a pretty large area that has steps going up to a central archway that has life-size figures of the crucifixion. Along the way, they have the Stations of the Cross, which goes over the Passion of Christ. Then they also have some life-size figures like of angels and of Christ, John the Baptist, other folks around there. And I had gone there. That picture was taken on a Good Friday a few years back. And it was just this weird kind of moment where it's just like, you know, there's a lot of people there that day, and they're all dressed in like, you know, Roman outfits.
Right.
And yet, there's just this like, one little moment that I just found there that I kind of got a kick out of, especially with all the yellow, you know, flowers next to it.
Well, as I have always said, timing is everything, right?
Being there.
You know, it's being in the moment, being there and everything. So let's move on to the next one now. Since we're doing this remotely, I'm giving a little direction. Thanks to Neil Parrick in the background, is really, really helping us out here today. Thank you so much, Neil.
That's the Iceman.
Oh, the Iceman, man. Tell us about the Iceman. This is cool. Oh, my
Iceman
God.
was just like, you know, basically Nos Quedamos, which is a community organization where 𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐿 works.
Okay.
They were having, you know, one of their stage garden Rumbas and block parties. They do a great job bringing live music and art to neighborhoods.
Right.
This one, you know, they had some great planeros playing. They also had a garifuna, a dance troupe. That's a Caribbean Honduran dance troupe.
Right.
And then they had the Iceman, and it was like a trip because I had gone away for a second. I come back, and I see like just a ton of people in front of this dude. I was coming from the back.
Right.
And so I just get up, you know, up front as close as I could and try to get a clear shot of this guy. He is up to his neck, literally in ice.
In ice. Oh my God.
I'm like, whatever. But it was like, you know, it was just this goofy scene.
It's a goofy scene. But you know, you hit on something important there that we should talk about for a minute, because this is also the part that I wanted to segue into for a second about you guys documenting the neighborhood and the life in the Bronx and everything. Is that you mentioned about Edwin Pagan. Edwin does so much community work. You all have done your fair share of.
You know, our work doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, our work is how do I put it? I mean, you know, our work is informed by our relationship to the community.
Right.
The community we come from in a lot of cases, or communities that are very similar to the ones we come from.
Right.
And I think, you know, it's hard to explain.
Well, it's something that's in you. I mean, it's your community. It's your people.
Yeah, it's my people, and it's also like, you know, what guides me is, yeah, of course the visuals guide me, but much more importantly, it's, you know, what's going on in my head and also what I'm feeling.
Right.
All these things, images, you know, are very powerful because they conjure up memories of concrete moments.
Right.
That's the literal interpretation of an image.
Concrete moments.
But
Yeah.
it can also have, you know, an emotional memory, if you will, or even a political point of view.
Right.
I mean, look at this one. I mean, you know, you
Right.
got Ice Cube, you know, optimism is a force multiplier. Interesting, you know, quote from Colin Powell, who is from the Bronx.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's just, you know, it's a very complicated place that continues to get misinterpreted. And so I think the only way I can be honest about it is, you know, follow what I feel. And And it's important to me also a lot of times is, trying to develop some sort of rapport with the people I photograph, because a lot of the street work, there's some other stuff I do on the street work, I love just having random conversations with people. And that's one of the great things. I mean, just walking over here from parking, there's a guy looking for a Chinese restaurant. He was with the Dough Fund. He says, where can I find a Chinese restaurant? I say, well, so the projects are over there, because he says, I got coupons. I don't have cash. I said, well, there's some delis here that might take that, but definitely the projects are there. You'll find Chinese. And that's like, this random 1-minute interaction with somebody, which was conducted actually primarily in Spanish. Once I realized he had a Latin accent, I just went into Spanish. And it's like these random moments of connection with people. I didn't take his picture, but it put me in a certain mood. Now, this guy.
Yeah, this guy. Tell us about this guy.
That's 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐬. He's a
Cyanide.
He's a graphic artist and graffiti writer, out of the Bronx. He's taught graphic design and art at colleges in Jersey. And he's somebody I photographed. And Ricky Flores also has photographed him on and off over the years. But I photograph a lot of guys doing graffiti.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a bunch of them for a while, and I got to know 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐬 through those circles. And so one day I was near where he was painting, which is up in Tough City, up in Fordham Road, right off Southern Boulevard. And Tough City, it's really funny. That gate has no tags. No, they don't allow people to tag on that gate, but every other surface is covered. Trust me.
Tagging. Go ahead. I don't want to.
So it's like what they have there is Tough City. They actually set up like a stretch of rail.
Right.
I mean, with like real railroad, so you can like feel like you're back in the subway. I guess I don't know. They also have like full size replicas of a subway car, so you can paint at proper scale. But that's that's Homeboy. He has his own very distinctive style. He definitely has his own point of view politically, and I call him the cosmic hero because he's very much into Puerto Rican roots, but he's also kind of cosmic, man.
I have to tell you, man, I've known some people that have done the most amazing, as you have, the most amazing pieces of work, graffiti-wise and everything. But man, nothing will ever take over the fact that we lived through riding those subways and all those other things back in the days and seeing it firsthand on the trains and everything else. I tell you, man, wow, what the trains were back in the day. People who ride the trains these days have no idea.
Thing is, people are getting up during the pandemic. When they started putting cars in layups, you knew damn well people were going to get up, and they have.
Yeah,
I mean, they've been.
I saw a lot of tagging going on during the pandemic.
I'm talking whole cars, man. I'm talking like.
Yeah. They made up for lost time, right?
Exactly. And just I photograph a lot of street stuff, but also it's kind of obvious. I kind of like really take Walker Evans, and so I just like, I like the juxtaposition of all these words. I am a writer, out of deference to my friend Ralph Ramirez, who says, you have too many pictures with words in them. You're right, bro. But sometimes I want the words. I'm a writer, man. What can I tell you?
I love that about you. When I go through your Instagram feed, everybody should check out David's Instagram feed at 104BX, because let me tell you, it's an education. Because what you'll see are all these, like you said, the juxtaposition between words and photos and murals and the little subtle things that you may not pick up on at first, but if you study the photo, you'll see them, and they're amazing. Check David out at 104BX. Go ahead, David. So tell us about the next one.
What's this?
We're going to, Neil's going to switch to the next photo now. Okay, so here's one of
Pistoleros in Mott-Haven.
Okay.
That was taken the same day I photographed my dancers.
Was it? So you did have a good day.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I got one more picture.
Okay.
I was just.
Let's go back to that one for a second, Neil. Hold on a second.
Ralph Ramirez and I were representing in Folko at a block party down in Mott-Haven, right off Alexander and 140th.
Right.
And we worked the table, handing out literature about Folko, and kids kept coming up to us all afternoon saying, "Take my picture, take my picture." So I have a bunch of pictures of kids just standing in front of me like that.
For those who don't know, just a smidgen, without going knee deep into it, because it's a lot of stories there. Just can you tell everybody what an 𝐿Foco is, just so in case they don't know?
𝐿Foco is basically a nonprofit Latino photographers collaborative.
Okay.
And when I say Latino, back in those days, it's primarily Puerto Rican.
Right.
And most of the early founders of 𝐿Foco, people like 𝐶, who was one of the big co-founders, Roger Galán, Frank X. Mendez, a bunch of other folks who are no longer with us also. They were more in the social documentary tradition. Phil Dante, who studied with Gene Smith, they were all more in the social documentary tradition, although some of them later on went towards more art photography. I know like 𝐶 later work was more in a more abstract or artistic vein. And then over the years, though, it changed as funding changed. It became something that was appealing to, you know, basically photographers of color in general. But, you know, the movement started out in a way when there were very few organizations out there that were really paying attention to photography. And there were a few of us who were out there doing it. And you got to realize, as Edwin knows, I mean, when you're starting out, it's expensive. It's expensive.
Yeah,
so,
no, it is.
Limited.
Oh, man.
So when you have groups like 𝐼𝐭 that were able to give you like lab space.
Right.
Or, you know, I had a job with them. So I was putting up exhibits like a community, you know, block parties, banks, libraries, giving talks. We were just bringing Latino photography, primarily Puerto Rican, to
the foreground,
to the community also. I mean, a lot of it was about, I mean, there's a dual purpose here. Part of it is, of course, to, you know, let people know that the visual canon is a little more varied than you might think, but also just to represent our communities. I mean, for me, the most important thing is that if people can recognize something of their experience in my pictures, I'm happy.
Speaking of pictures, let's go to the next one because it's almost 1 o'clock, but we're probably going to go just maybe 10 minutes over because I want to give David his just time here to go through the rest of them. No, we have about seven more images, but we'll go through them in not rapid form, but I want you to. So quickly about this one, David.
Just, you know, one of the things I did a lot is, especially during the pandemic, I went out either early in the morning or late at night. But even before the pandemic, that was kind of a habit of mine, especially early morning. I'd just go around and, you know, walk and just see what I see. And this is one of those things where the light was just hitting it.
It was hitting it just right.
And I was like, I was coming back, I think I was coming back from visiting John Ahern's studio. John, sculptor, who has a studio down in the South Bronx.
And you drowned out here for a second by a motorcycle group. So bear with us, folks. We're doing this live from Photoville. By the way, I just wanted to quickly take a second and tell everybody, thank you so much for joining in today. We have about 10, 15 minutes more. I have to tell you that this has been incredible. We're doing this live from Pier 2, and we've been showing David Gonzalez's Bronx Life work. Thanks so much to my assistant, Neil Parek, behind the scenes. Find him at Neil Parek, Rose Horowitz, who's been doing all of the engagement and the banners and tickers and everything. And a side shout out to Ronaldo Robinson and Aaron Lee Feynman for helping me get my bearings when I got here. But anyway, Edward says those were the days when the trains were painted red. Yeah, that's right. And green. Yep. No, they're not these silver ones, like these flashy ones. Joe says South Bronx High School, baby.
Yeah, that's where he's from.
Yep. So Joe's been on the show. Everybody should check out 𝐒𝐿𝐧 Jr. on the Spin It Social YouTube channel, and also Edwin Pagan right here. Thank you, Edwin. You know, I had you on and we told your story. One day, I'm saying it here first, and maybe David will back me up on this. I want to have 𝐒𝐮 on the show together, and we're going to go through the whole body of work. How's that? You think we can do it?
No, you can't because the 6 guys out on the West Coast.
Okay. Well, I can bring him in.
Good luck. We've been trying to reach him.
Okay.
Joe knows what I'm talking about.
I'm going to get it done. And that's Molina, right?
That's
Francisco Reyes Molina II.
That's Cisco.
Cisco. Well, I had to say it by the other way, but you could say Cisco. Okay, Cisco, if you're online now and you're watching this, you won't be, but I'm telling you, your friends will tell you, I'm getting you on the show with them. If not, we're going to get Cinco del Sur. How's that?
One thing I will say is Cisco has some of the absolute best images of like Latin jazz.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely. Okay. Both performance and just candidates. Stuff rocks.
But let me tell you, folks, we're going to get 5 of them on at least, and I'm going to have 𝐶𝐮 del Sur on all 5. David, Angel, Franco, Edwin Pagan, Ricky Flores, and Jesus, I'm sorry, Joe, you just were on. 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐧 Jr., by the way, because there is a senior. And
𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐧 season, no joke, man.
oh,
Shout out to Papa 𝐭NZO.
Remember Papa 𝐭NZO was on the Spinach Social Hour with Edwin?
Papa 𝐭NZO was the guy who taught Al Pacino how to act like Carlito.
You heard it here first,
How
folks.
to act like Carlito. Act. The key word is act. Papa 𝐭NZO didn't have to act.
We got a lot of stories here with 𝐒𝐻𝐧. So let's put the camera back on David here, and let's roll through the next one.
Man,
right
that's my man. That's Mr. Palladium.
Okay.
He was a familiar figure in parts of the Bronx, and also like at Orchard Beach. That was at 52 Park. 52 Park is across the street from 52 PS 52, which actually is a legendary public school. It was the subject of, it was featured in the movie From Mambo to Hip Hop by Henry Chalfant and Elena Martinez and Bobby Sanabria. And it also is the kind of thing that, hold on, we got some traffic here.
Yeah.
The joys of live broadcasting.
Notice we had to come from the front because to go through the back, that would be too difficult.
That would have been bad. But anyways, you know, that was 52 Park, which is a park that was really developed by one guy, Al, but, 52 People for Progress, which is a great community group in South Bronx. They actually took care of the park, and they actually set up a salsa series with, like, really big names. I mean, like El Gran Combo, which is, like, the top orchestra from Puerto Rico. They would play there. Tito Nieves played there. It's a trip. So that was a concert that was being held, I think back in 2013. I get there early. I come in, and I see this guy with this hat. And I'm like, I got to photograph this guy, but I didn't want to like just walk up to him and pop a frame because that's just like disrespectful.
Yeah, no, not
and
for
besides,
somebody like him. Yeah.
Besides, there's a story behind it.
Right.
And so I just complimented him in Spanish on having all those Niño Jesuses. Well, that's the Niño Jesus is that Jesus figure on top of Niño Divino. And so we started talking, and he starts talking about how, he's Mr. Palladium. He's really big into dancing. And he says, and these kids today, when they go out and dance, all they do is spin and spin and spin. That's not dancing, that's spinning. And so then I said, "Now take your picture." And he said, "Yes. I love this picture." It's just like he has the Yankee plastic cap. He has all kinds of Jesus. He has all these plastic beads. It's what we call todo hierro. He has everything but the kitchen sink. And you just gotta love it because we all also in our communities. This isn't the first guy I've seen with hats like this. I mean, I remember once I was at La Fonda Boricua. There was a guy with a Panama hat that had those pigeons, or those doves that you put in flower arrangements, like styrofoam doves. Right. He had them on he had styrofoam doves and roosters, little model roosters on his hat.
And you touched on something really important, and then we're going to go on to the rest of the shots and then close out the show soon.
Yeah.
We got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to go a little 10 minutes over if that's okay with Neil and Rose, who are helping us in the background. Once again, folks, we're coming to you from Photoville, from Pier 2 area, and we're talking to the great David Gonzalez about his exhibition called Bronx Life. It's here at Pier 2. You got to come see it. Show it the love. Show David the love. But one of the things you touched on, David, I wanted to talk about for a minute was what you just said about taking certain types of pictures of somebody like that and showing them the respect of doing a beautiful portrait of them and telling their story the way it needs to be told. What is the difference to you in terms of street photography that way, of grabbing those hip shot moments, as many of us call them, shooting from the hip, or grabbing a photo like that? And what at that moment determines for you, besides just the respect that that makes you shoot it that way?
I used to do a lot of hip shooting when I was starting out. That's why I got the 28.
Right.
And the fact is that, some people did it great. I mean, what's his face?
You have a book I have called Shooting from the Hip, or whatever the book is called. Hip Shot. I have that one.
He died. He used to.
He did?
That was years ago.
Man, I don't remember.
He worked with Margaret Mead. He's famous. I'm forgetting his name now.
Me too.
I've met him.
I'm drawing a blank.
But I mean, I think after a while, I thought a hip shot was a crutch for me.
Right.
In the sense that I gotta talk to people.
Right.
I got to get to know them somehow.
Right.
And I think that's what journalism informed my photography. My photography definitely informed my journalism in terms of visual cues and what have you, and moods. But also that
Edwin, by the way, says that Francisco is the truth.
he is. His performance shows.
We're talking about Cisco, as David calls him, but Francisco Molina Reyes II. And anyway,
but I mean, I think it's a much more rewarding experience,
right?
And also you learn a lot about just what we do.
Well,
hold on.
Oh, sure, please. No, go ahead.
I need to make a point.
Go ahead.
And I just forgot it.
Oh, sorry.
There were some pictures that are more determined by the composition. Or I didn't want to bother somebody. Last night, I was at Glen Island, chilling. Sun was going down. There was one moment where I saw this guy. He was fishing, and his wife and their kid were to the side. So I just shot him in silhouette because the point I wanted to make about it had nothing to do with their faces. And part of it was just, an image I liked. The silhouettes, the lights, the texture on the water, the sky, the orange blending into blue in the sky, like sherbet. I like that. That's photo nerd stuff too, to some extent. But what I also was trying to do is, if you look, I call, sometimes I use words. This one was in Spanish, el pan del día, our daily bread, which was this guy was fishing so he could feed his family. Beautiful picture, but the reality of it is he's fishing to feed his family, which is okay. But yeah, it's our last picture. That's the one.
Oh, look at that. Hey, Neil pulled it up on Instagram. There it is right there, folks. If you go to 104BX and check it out even closer. Thank you, Neil, for showing the photo that David was just talking about.
But, I liked what I liked about them was this moment. It was a family moment, and he's fishing, and it's cool. I got friends who fish.
Right.
Joel Soto's out there. What's up, my brother? I know he's out fishing today. But the thing is, it's also, you can look at it a lot of different ways. I don't necessarily feel sorry for these people. I think you can find some people that might feel sorry for them if they're like, it is what it is. And people also bring their traditions to this country too. And, it is. And so, it was just a moment where I just found this spoke to me on a bunch of different levels. Mm-hmm. But I got to admit also, the photo nerd in me kind of just went, wow, with the sun, like anybody else.
Of course. So, Neil, let's go back to the actual slideshow now. Thank you so much for, this is one of the great things about using StreamYard is being able to flip everything around and see everything at the same time. What do we have here?
That's at the Roberto Clemente State Park in the Bronx.
Okay.
About maybe, one very long block north of 1520 Sedgwick, the birthplace of hip hop. That was the Floating Foundation of Photography had a doc there for a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
And we were there doing an 𝐒𝐭 exhibit. Mm-hmm. And so I went to check out the Floating Foundation. What was interesting was downstairs they were showing Teenage Lust by Larry Clark.
Okay.
Not my favorite body of work, to be honest. Yeah. But hey, it wasn't my people in those pictures.
Right.
Sorry to joke.
No, I get it. I get it. Okay, what do we got here?
That's Moses. Moses, there's a story that I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, let's.
But those who know. That's Moses. He was married to my cousin, and he was in charge of the grounds at the Point. And
okay.
the Point is where I've known a lot of people forever. This is their 25th anniversary year. They do great work with the arts and young people in the community. They were a force not just for good, but for change, real change, right, and real community power. Right. And this, however, was the birthday party for Hector Nazario, better known as Nice, who was a graffiti writer, part of Tat's crew. Everybody was just hanging out that day. I was inside. It was hot. I went outside. I saw Homeboy pop. I just like the way he looked.
Oh, it's a great shot. And
he's wearing a shirt by my man Beyond, Anthony Beyond Cabezas. I also got this shirt by him too.
Let's see. Okay, there it is. Okay. Okay.
I shop my gear, my T-shirts. I get them from the Bronx and the people that promote the Bronx.
Absolutely.
So I mean, but that was what that was the day that we were just hanging. I mean, I know a lot of these folks, and sometimes we just go and hang out with them. It's not like we're photographing them because they're painting, although we do that too. It's just like we photograph them because we have cameras and they're our friends.
I have to tell you, I could shoot myself sometimes. I had one of the best kids that was hand painted, graffiti wise, b-boy style and everything from one of the guys that used to hang out with me at Roxy. I don't know what the hell happened to that jacket when I moved apartments once, and I could shoot myself because I wanted to have it framed. So people, I mean, that thing is invaluable, man, and it's gone. And I could, anyway, we know the beauty of the community art that way, you know? Anyway, so let's finish off here with a few more.
Yeah, that's Juan Gutierrez, the guy in the middle. He's a major cultural figure in the Bronx. He's the leader of Los Pañeros de la 21, which is a Puerto Rican traditional music group. And, they've had some really incredible musicians be part of their group. They've been around for decades now. You also see them a lot at La Casita de Chema, which is a casita in Melrose by around 156th or so in St. Anne's Avenue. That was at Port Morris Distillery, which is in Port Morris, obviously. They make pitorro, which is a Puerto Rican, it's basically Puerto Rican moonshine. It's smooth as silk. I don't get anything from these cats, but trust me, you like rum, you like that smooth stuff. Check out PMD.
Okay, all right.
But anyways, I was invited there by Edwin to just hang out, and somebody else invited me to check out the group to cover them. I'm not going to cover them. It just wasn't going to work for me. But I have my camera, and I'm like, yo. And so I like to work music, and I like to work it up close. And so you got Wango there, and again, Juan Gutierrez is truly a cultural treasure in New York City. And it's a shame that, well, it's not a shame, but people who know, we love him. Y'all don't know, you should get to know. The guy on the right is really funny. That's Luis Bonilla. He is a trombone player who now is he lives in Vienna. He bought a cafe in Vienna.
Nice.
And he's
good for him.
And he's part of Phil Collins' touring band.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So what do we got next, Neil? Because I know we got to close out the show here, but we want to get all these. And you got to eat lunch. David's got to eat lunch. We're all going to go eat lunch. So Neil, what do we got next in the slideshow? Did we freeze? Okay, here we go.
Car wash. That's what I call
it. Car wash.
Again, one of my things, I like going around at sunset, golden hour, what are we going to call it?
Right.
And I was driving down there one day, and it's just I stopped, and I just parked, and I hung out for 20 minutes and just waited for the sun to go a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
And got that.
You got it. The car wash.
I actually have several friends who use that car wash.
All you need to playing in the background is the actual car wash song, right?
That's right.
That's right, because that's the classic. All right, a couple of more here. We have this one.
That was the piece that led off Faces in the Rubble.
That's right.
I'm not trying to be dramatic or anything, but I grew up playing in lots like that. I grew up playing in empty buildings. Sure. By the way, those buildings in the background there are not abandoned, and they're still there. But that was November. I know very specifically that the day I took that picture. That was in November of 1979, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I had just finished teaching at CS 61 on Boston Road, and I was walking to take the bus, and these kids said, "Hey, take our picture." So I did. There's a dog in there. They're all playing with a dog in an empty lot, and I could relate to that. I played in the like Joe Conte used to talk about, the magic of abandoned basements. I mean, basements and empty buildings.
Some people used to term it mattress diving and stuff.
Yeah, there was stuff like that, but we did stuff like we would do stuff like going to one building, one end of the block, and wind up on the entire opposite end of the block, going to backyards and empty buildings,
right?
And jumping roofs.
No, I know that.
Stupid.
The things we did as kids that we're surprised that we survived. Back in the days,
the statute of limitations, right now.
I mean, back in the days, everybody doesn't remember the piers down where I grew up in the West Village, how dilapidated and everything else they were.
But this picture for me was just.
But nothing like.
But this picture for me is like you can look at the rubble, you can look at the kids.
Right.
Look at the kids.
Right. This is such a. I mean, okay, now we're gonna stop here because I'm pretty sure this is the last photo in the show. I think. But man, this is the classic that we should end on. It's your dancer's photo. It's collected around the world. I'm sure you.
Around the world, in the hemisphere.
Although
there are a couple of prints in China.
Okay, I was going to say,
Shout out to Gene Moore.
Okay. There you go. But David's photo here is the one that, you know, we could easily end on. It says so much.
I mean, I took that picture and then I put it away for 30 years. I didn't know this picture existed for 30 years. I shot it August 10th, 1979. Okay. It wasn't until March of 2009 that I discovered it. Now, mind you, I have other photographs that I shot that day, including one that it had hung on my wall forever. I didn't even know, I didn't remember this picture. Okay. And I saw it when I was looking at a light box, and I was like, this could be interesting. So then I put it through the scanner, and, you know, I had like, I think 4 frames.
Right.
And that was the one that worked. I had their backs on others. But what was happening was, I was at a block party. Mm-hmm. They were dancing to a full salsa band behind me. Okay. The street behind me was packed with people. They're there on their own. Right. In the background. Right, those are the Patterson projects. Yeah. You know, on 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, where my friend Gail Slatter, rest her soul, she was at the Times. Right. Gail grew up there. My grew up there. All-star track coach, and Tiny Archibald grew up in those projects. This is like Bronx trivia. But anyways, I forgot about it. Once I saw it, it spoke to me because it really captured what I've always been trying to do with my work, which is, you know, this is in 1979 at the height of the fires, the abandonment. That's right. People would walk away from the Bronx, and we're still paying for that, by the way. People still think that, you know, we're somehow less because we had to deal with, let's face it, we had to deal with structural inequality and racism. Right. If you want to argue with that with me, I'm down. I can put down my cameras. I can show you my words. I can go at it either way. The fact is, what this reminds me of is something that was told to me by Emilio Carrillo. Emilio Carrillo is a friend of mine. He's a Harvard-educated doctor. He used to be head of health and hospitals. He's a vice president at New York Presbyterian. 11 years ago, a tumor destroyed my C1 disc. It's the one at the base of the neck. Jesus. And so I found out quickly I had to have surgery or else I could be paralyzed or worse. And so, you know, I called up my friend Emilio and I told him what was happening, and he shows up. And we're talking, and I have to get a, you know, spinal fusion, which is scary. Out of, you know, one day to the next, I realize I have a tumor growing in my spine. Gets your attention. Yeah. And what happened was, I remember Emilio said, whatever you do, listen to our music. Our culture will keep you alive. And he's right. I mean, who might argue with a Harvard-trained doctor anyway? But before I had my operation to rebuild my spine, which was successful, thank God. You know, I spent a lot of time listening to classic Latin music and jazz. And it put me in a place where I could deal with it. And I think the same thing could be said of that picture, that no matter what's happening, our culture is going to keep us strong. We are a part of New York City. We are not visitors here. We are not minorities here. You know, the Silurians gave me their award this year for, you know, minority coverage. And I had to tell them, you know, I don't deserve it because I really don't write about white people that much in New York City. I just don't. It's a joke. But it's not really a joke. To talk about minorities in New York, again, you want to talk about minorities? I'm down. You're down. You know, consider that from the Bronx. That point of view is very different, though. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, I'm not trying to be Pollyannish or sentimental. This exists alongside the misery, and the misery exists in ways that a lot of people from the outside still want to make value judgments on and don't want to admit that the way things are set up in some of these communities, like Robert Moses destroying the middle of the Bronx, have repercussions in the state. All the suburbs that are cut off by highways, and yet where do those highways go through? Communities of color. We're still paying for that. I mean, people don't know that because they don't care. That's the bottom line. So let me ask you. We're going to close it out now. On a happy note. On a happy note. No, some final. Asking you for final words can be dangerous because I mean in terms of duration. No. But David, you know, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here today.
I wanted to make the 50th Spin It Social Hour something special with somebody special. I've always valued you as a writer, as a photographer, and as a person. And you and 𝐭∫ become more and more important to me as I, even to this day, continue to learn about you guys. I mean, me and Angel, everybody, we all have history, many years at the old paper together. But a final word from you about the body of work here and why people should come see it, which is kind of an obvious question, but tell them, why should they come see it?
Because you hurt my freaking feelings.
That's what I wanted from you, man. I knew it. That's why.
You know, I mean, listen, the pictures are there. Trust me, there's at least one you'll like, okay? But other than that, you can roller skate, you can play handball. So, man, you know,
and
that's it.
And you can have beautiful views of the city at the same time. David's photos are right here on Pier 2. I have to tell you, man, it has been the most amazing hour and 15 minutes now, 60 minutes. Neil, thank you for going a little over. I'm going to close out the show now by simply saying we will move on now to the 51st Spin It Social Hour. David, it has been an absolute, just incredible time being with you. Thank you again. Okay. And everything. David's texting. There we go.
I got relatives. My cousin is coming over.
I got don't mess with the cousins. Okay. But folks, I'm going to end this by simply saying I will be back again for the 51st Spin It Social Hour soon. And I just want to give a quick shout out at the end here that I am a social media and visual strategist and live stream producer. Hit me up at Spin It Social. Hit David Gonzalez up at 104BX in the house. Hit Aaron Feynman out right here in the background. Aaron, say hello. Aaron.
He's talking.
He's talking. And we got Ronaldo Robinson back there. All right, there they are. They helped out too. Rose Horowitz, Neil Parrick, thank you. I'm going to put up the card now for so it can end the show here. We're doing this all mobily here, folks. Thank you very much for being here, folks. See you on the next 51st Spin It Social Hour. This was live from Photoville. See ya.